Hey, what's good, y'all? Kush Hayes here, coming to you with episode 8 of the Kick-Ass Movie Podcast. Before we begin, we want to know, we bank these in advance. So in a bit, you're going to hear us say, hey, Master Leo Fong, he's not feeling too well, and we wish him a speedy recovery. Well, if you may or may not have heard, he did pass away recently. And Master Len Kabasinski, I know you've already said some stuff on one of your podcasts, but if you want to say something here, please.
Yeah, Leo is a great man, and I know he was hospitalized, and his son got to me and messaged me just saying that Leo had gone home. He was off of I take it he was on a respirator or something like that, some kind of life support, and then he was off of that, and they sent him home. But then he said his body had just shut down, and there was nothing doctors could do anymore. And I don't know if it was COPD he was battling later in life there or not. I know he had to do some breathing treatments and stuff, but the man was solid as an oak tree at 93 years old. He was a fit guy all the way to the end. I remember him telling me, and his I don't know, what are people from Arkansas called? Are they Arkansonian or what are I don't know. I'm Pennsylvanian, so and I know he was born in China, and then he came over to Seattle, but then he went to Arkansas from there. But he always told me he grew up in Arkansas, kind of thing. He never really mentioned Seattle, and of course he never really mentioned China. But Leo talked a lot to me about growing up in Arkansas and what he dealt with there. So in his own Arkansonian voice, there was just like, Len, we get this done, and Len, we can do this, Len, we can shoot this in 3 hours, Len, we can do this, and I guess it's, it's like when Betty White went or something like that. You know what I mean? Nobody should be shocked. She's a 100-year-old woman or whatever. So I don't think, Leo lived his life. He was over 93 years old. He turned 93 in November there, but while it's not a surprise, it doesn't mean it doesn't still affect you, kind of thing. There's still people you care about and like and cherish and things like that. And I've had many conversations with Leo since I contacted him, whatever it was, several years back before Gauntlets got rolling to work with me there. And I've had consistent conversations ever since, whether I'm filming or not filming, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, the man is just a wealth of martial art knowledge, a wealth of independent filmmaking, and to be honest, he was probably really the first martial art independent filmmaker America's ever seen. So I can't think of anybody that would have been before him, really. So you want to talk about Billy Jackson, stuff like that, okay, fine, but I mean, those aren't really like independent films, right. What I mean? Those were studio backed adventures, kind of thing, where Leo's doing all this stuff himself, even in the earliest phases. And he did a couple Hollywood pictures and that kind of stuff. And he would talk, fondly about it. But he's like, man, I like doing my own stuff. I like being my own agent. My last Hollywood picture I did was Cage 2 with Lou Ferrigno. I did some fights and did an acting bit there and did that stuff. But that was the last Hollywood picture I did, Len. And I just kind of like doing my own thing and writing my own stuff. And he was still writing scripts and stuff, even at 93. That when I went out just this past October, the first day I went out, there was no filming scheduled or anything like that. And it was just I went to his house when the flight got in there, and just to say hi to him and chat with him a minute and tell him what was going to go on. And he was like, Len, I got this script I'm writing. It's called The Savage Seven, where these space aliens come down and do martial arts and kick ass, and they beat up gangs in LA. And I thought, how cool is this? This 93-year-old man is writing karate space aliens that come down and beat up gang members in LA. How fucking cool is that, dude? You know
That's
what I mean?
Cool.
I mean, yeah, it's fucking amazing. And God bless him. I'm, I only have very few regrets in life, kind of thing. There's those hybrid moments you have where you think back and think, oh man, but there is those moments that you remember, that stick with you, that aren't hybrid moments, that don't go away. You cherish these conversations and things like that. And I had many of those with Leo Fong.
Nice. I only got to know the man very briefly on the set of Pact of Vengeance, but if I hadn't been on the set of Pact of Vengeance, I'd have never met him whatsoever. So yeah, man, I'm very thankful that you guys came out here to LA. I'm glad that I got to be a part of that. And now that's a
I'm glad
memory
you
I
helped
will
out
always
the
have
film.
too. It was a great time, dude. I can't wait to do the next
That's right.
one. But
It's going to happen. So
there you go, folks. We're going to get into the actual episode now. This is Kick-Ass Movie Podcast, episode 8, talking Martial Outlaw. So cue the music now.
We're here to kick ass. If you with the Kung Fu, then this your podcast. No breaks, all gas. This the Kick-Ass Movie Podcast. We're here to kick ass. If you with the Kung Fu, then this your podcast. No breaks, all gas. This the Kick-Ass Movie Podcast. What you know about being a black belt? Len Kabasinski can tell you how that felt. Swift kick from a man can turn into a bad spell. Kick-ass movies and Len really tend to add well. North, Mr. North Star. Pop the judo, chop you right out your car. Kush to the Hayes, Mr. Always raise the bar. He strives to be great and exceeds it by far. So sit back, relax, we getting dirty like a mud pit. Talking kickboxer and blood fist. If we catch you dozing off, then you gotta go. What you know about Taekwondo?
What's good, y'all? Kush Hayes here, coming to you for the newest brand spanking episode of the Kick-Ass Movie Podcast. With me, as always, is the director of Pact of Vengeance, the master, Len Kabasinski. Len, what's good?
Kush, how the hell are you? It's always my pleasure. I look forward to this episode. I've seen this movie probably 25 times throughout the years, so very excited for this era of straight-to-video action films and martial art films, and I feel like this is right into the wheelhouse of that time where there was a lot of stuff coming out. But before we get rolling, though, I want to give a shout-out to my friend, people know him as Low Blow and Kill Point and movies like that. But I know him as Leo Fong, and Leo has been a little under the weather lately and was hospitalized. He apparently is off a ventilator and doing well as we're recording this right now. So it seems to be, his health is improving. But Leo, get well, my man.
Yeah, get well, Leo Fong. I had the privilege of meeting him on the set of Pact of Vengeance. Super nice guy. Wealth of stories that we didn't even get to scratch the surface of just because we had to keep going and going and going. But yeah, man, I hope you're feeling better, and best wishes and all that.
He's a true encyclopedia of martial arts and independent filmmaking over the last 40, 50 years here. I mean, it's his life story could not fit into 10 84-minute direct-to-video 84-minute feature. So not even 10 84-minute films could capture his life story properly. I mean, his autobiography would be 10,000 pages long. I mean, an incredible man, and it's still mentally sharp as a tack. So yeah, great dude, great guy.
There you go, man. Speaking of 84-minute long direct-to-video features, we're talking about 1993's Martial Outlaw. Now, I already knew off the bat that I had never seen this before, but it also, based on the title, falls into a certain pit of other movies that sound similar, including the man who directed this also directed and produced Martial Law, which made me wonder, is this like a sequel or a spin-off that I wasn't hip to? And,
No.
et cetera, et cetera. Answer is no. Okay. So, Jeff Wincott, Gary Hudson, two dudes I know nothing about, but as I'm watching this movie, and again, very, very few details about this film going in production-wise and budget-wise and all that, but I figure, if this movie had like $7 to $10 million more in the budget, this would be a Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jeff Speakman film.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Jeff Wincott, actually, before this happened, though, before Martial Outlaw, so we're talking, 93, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is 93. Before that, in the late 80s, so rewind, he's 5-6 years younger. He was on a Canadian television show, late night, that was apparently pretty popular in Canada. I believe it was called Night Heat. I believe he even won some type of award for his performance on that it would be like an NYPD Blue type thing, except it was on Canada television. But, he was already kind of a star there. And then as he tried to transition into American things, he's in things like Martial Outlaw. Now, that being said, Martial Outlaw, we can see there's some some things going on. I mean, there's some production value to it. It's obviously not what people would consider a B movie today. You know, B movie today, you're talking, you know, $100,000, maybe less kind of stuff. This obviously has a budget to it. It's shot on film. It's well lit. The camera guys and choreography. The choreographer, by, in my opinion, the greatest fight choreographer that's ever lived, especially for martial art fight scenes, and his name is Jeff Pruitt. He choreographs all the martial arts. Jeff Wincott, strange enough, doesn't do a lot of that kind of stuff on Night Heat, which he was popular for. But you get into these films, and now he's a martial arts star. And I believe he's a black belt in Taekwondo in real life. But he was also, I mean, you can tell the man's an athlete. I think he was a swimmer or something like that in Ontario somewhere in Canada. And his brother hasn't really done as much work as him, I don't think, Michael Wincott, but he's probably more popular than Jeff, only because his brother was the lead villain in a movie called The Crow, which was fairly popular. So Michael Wincott is, that's the lead villain, and they look just like each other. I mean, so,
yeah.
But anyways, there's some trivia there. But I believe the director to this was Kurt Anderson, I think is the director of this film.
That is correct. He's mostly a producer, but he, between this, from the beginning to end of his career, from 1991 to 1997, he directed 7 features, all straight to video.
Yeah, I liked just about all of his stuff. I'd have to see what came later in his run there, but I liked all the stuff he did with Wincott, his producing work and stuff. We're talking about Martial Law, that had David Carradine and Cynthia Rothrock and Chad Mcqueen. Right, Chad Mcqueen coming 5 years off of, you know, being one of the Cobra Kai in the first Karate Kid there. So, I mean, he was trying to get a career going as a leading man. He was a pretty good athlete as well, good martial artist. But again, he just didn't go full out into martial art movies. When I think Wincott was starting to do that, but then as we saw some of, you know, the demands of being a straight to video thing were starting to even change as we get into the late 90s there for these kinds of pictures. You know what I mean? You couldn't have something shot on mini DV and everything, you know, and have a $10,000 budget brain damage film thing shot on mini DV and it's at a video store. The demand in martial art films, I think, was still more.
Gary Hudson, what's his deal?
Yeah, I had looked him up recently. He still looks great. He looks sinister. He looks physically like he did in Martial Outlaw. He's in great shape, and he's got to be in his, I'm guessing, at least mid-60s at least now. But I mean, he looks fantastic physically now, and he's still a working actor, I believe. He's still doing current things. And I know Wincott has popped up here and there, but Gary Hudson's probably most popular for Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, I would guess. He's one of the villains in Roadhouse. I'm not adept at Roadhouse like some other people. I think it's fun, but I think a lot of the characters just get lost to me in Roadhouse because the only one that's really matters is Swayze and his buddy there from Mask, the guy with the gray hair that's his bar friend that gets killed. I can see it. Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott, thank you.
I mean, those are the only.
I'm too busy looking up other details here to remember Sam Elliott. Our guy Gary Hudson is currently 66. He'll be 67 at the end of the month here. So happy birthday, Gary Hudson.
Yeah, happy birthday, Gary Hudson. Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah, Roadhouse is one of those movies that everyone was always hyping to me, and I just sat on the sidelines for like 2.5 decades before. Like, I didn't finally see that movie till maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and then I was like, okay, I get why people like this.
Yeah, I like Roadhouse too. I think the thing with Roadhouse that gets lost with me is that came right around the time where I thought he did better things. Meaning, I'm a big fan of the movie Steel Dawn. The post-apocalyptic, really martial art philosophy kind of film, which I think is way better than Roadhouse. But that's just me. Roadhouse is a guy's movie. I get that. That's cool. I like Predator. I like those movies too. But Steel Dawn, I feel is superior in many ways to Roadhouse.
Well, let's get back on the movie here. Richard Jaeckel, who I think the last time we spoke of was on King of the Kickboxers, if I'm not mistaken.
Certainly was.
This is unfortunately his last feature film before he passes away. Is Jaeckel someone in the martial arts community, or is he just? I just work. I'm doing martial art movies.
He just works. Jaeckel did a really fun Jaws ripoff movie in the 70s. I want to say called Jaws of Death, where it has to do with amulets and mind controlling sharks or psychic connections with sharks, predating Jaws the Revenge. But check it out. I believe it's called Jaws of Death, and it has Richard Jaeckel in it. But yeah, I think this was his last feature film. I think his last thing actually was something made for television, and then he passed away. But this would have been his last non-made for TV feature here. So yeah, he was in King of the Kickboxers. Again, here he shows up as kind of the drunk dad kind of thing. So you figure he's on set for maybe 2 days, something like that. So, but he's trying to be the peacekeeper, if you will, between the two rival brothers, who one is straight-laced an FBI guy or DEA or whatever Wincott is in it. And then obviously his brother is a struggling, normal city police officer. So, who's kind of on the take, for lack of a better term. So yeah, there's going to be some tension there. We know what's going to happen. There's no surprise in the first few minutes of the movie. You know where this is going. This is going to be brother versus brother at some point, or there's going to be some kind of tension faction there that's going to create the rest of the film, which it does.
The animosity between both Wincott and Hudson is really good. It's really well done casting, to the point where, like, they're clearly not twins. They don't even necessarily look alike, but I watched this back to back twice, and there were scenes where I was just like, oh, is that the DEA agent? No, that's the cop. Is that the cop? No, that's the DEA agent. Like, they act like brothers. When they get into the sparring match after dinner, like, you feel that. I've only had a brother for about 4 years, but I was like, oh yeah, we would probably do that too. Like, oh.
Yeah, I think that scene is pivotal in this movie, when they're outside in the sparring bag and stuff. And Wincott, again, in Martial Outlaw, a little side trivia, it's not in this scene, but it happens later in a fight scene. Wincott apparently did not have a scene written without his shirt off. And he was like, man, I'm dieting and working out and doing all this shit to get all ripped up. And he was kind of, he's like, I'm getting my shirt off at some point because I worked too hard for this. And I can appreciate that, man. I've been there. So, yeah, apparently later in the film, he does a fight scene in what's called a Russian circle, where these guys are all, firing at him in some kind of weird gym area or something like that, which is really cool lighting. It's all red and black and everything. But in the choreography to that scene, he makes sure the one guy goes to pull on him, and he pulls his shirt and he slips out of his shirt on it. So it's actually not as blatant as him just standing there and taking his shirt off. It's actually kind of fits in with the choreography of that scene. So they did it kind of slick.
That was Will Leong with the shirt assist, and that's actually Al Leong's brother, who is also in this film. And then I'm glad you brought up the Russian circle, because it's good lighting, it's really good choreography, it's really good brutality without being over the top and gory. But, like, most recently I saw the Punisher TV series on Netflix. There's a fight in a gym, and the Punisher just grabs a couple 5-pound dumbbells and starts laying fools out. And for whatever reason, I had not seen anything else prior to that. And apparently Martial Outlaw does it first, he's just like, I've knocked all these assholes down 4 times now. I got to put these fools down. Like, just grabs the dumbbells and just starts hammering fools. And again, it's brutal, but it's not over the top. It's not grotesque. Like, we don't see guys' jaws just hanging off, thankfully.
No. And they use a lot of props in that scene too. I mean, they have the parallel bars. He's got I believe there's a pommel horse in there even. Now, we all know the best pommel horse is Jimkata, but there's still a pommel horse in there that they're using. All that kind of creative stuff. And yes, he grabs the dumbbells and starts punching guys with them and stuff. And it was pretty amazing choreography for being, a film that's, nearly 30 years old.
It's well done. It's an interesting excuse and motive for why all 7 guys aren't jumping on him. It was like, the rules are very simple. They have to fight you one-on-one. Like, really? And like 2 minutes into it, they're like, this one-on-one stuff isn't working, fellas. Maybe we should go 2-on-1. You're like, shouldn't we go 3-on-1? No, that'd be too much. We got to go 2-on-1 on this one, guys. Like, he's really kicking our ass.
Yeah.
They definitely go all over the place with the weapons. We get a staff. We get 2 staffs. We get, I think, a chair gets in there at one point. Again, the dumbbells. Some dude brings a mace in there, a spike ball on a chain. That comes out of nowhere. That's the most out of place prop in this movie, even.
But they needed something to give him that cool ass shot that they do in slow motion, where the ball whiffs past Wincott's face in a slow-mo shot. You can't lose that shot. So what weapon are you going to have? I mean, it's not as fun to just do nunchucks or something that doesn't really look as menacing. Although you get cracked with nunchucks, it fucking hurts. But it's not as cool looking as a mace with spikes on it and stuff like that. But the actor Vladimir something that plays the Russian Circle, big muscular guy. I think he just passed away within the last year or two here, and he wasn't very old either. I believe he was right around 60, but I know he passed away recently within the last couple years here.
So I got Vladimir Skomarovsky, who played Nikolai Radchenko. That's the main bad guy.
Oh no, that's the bad guy.
Yeah, Stefanos Miltsakis.
That's him. That's him.
He's the muscles, and he actually looks like Martin Kove.
He does
on steroids. So I started calling him Martin Kovovich. And that's what we'll probably call him for the rest of the show here. Kovovich doesn't say much, but like once we get into his fight, like there's real life consequences in this. This dude fucks people up.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Russian Circle being kind of unique, but I'm going to make a parallel real quick here to a movie he did just the same team. Jeff Wincott's in it. Stefanos, I'm not sure, is in it because Matthias Hughes is in it instead. But the movie he did right before this movie was a movie called Mission of Justice. And there is no Russian Circle in it, but there is a very similar scene in which to be initiated into this group, Jeff Wincott must run the gauntlet. And it's all these guys stick fighting and everything. So he has to go down a gauntlet one by one and fight all these guys. It's a really amazing scene. But if you've seen Martial Outlaw, when you go to see Mission of Justice, because you should see it, it's very good. You'll say, but it's the same director, Wincott, same fight choreographer, and Jeff Pruitt did both films. So if you want to talk about a companion piece to this movie, even though he doesn't play a DEA agent or anything like that, Mission of Justice is the movie to watch.
We haven't even really gotten into the plot yet. We've hit some beats. We just talked about a scene or two. What makes this one of your favorite movies, Len?
I would say back then, it was just getting rolling with this kind of, this kind of martial art choreography wasn't really seen being done by Americans. I mean, sure, you can do a Corey Yen film like No Retreat, No Surrender 2 that shot over there. And that was one of the first movies that blew my mind choreography-wise, that seemed to have, Americans in it. We're not talking about a Wu-Tang film from the 70s or a Shaw Brothers or anything, or obviously something I love like Five Element Ninja or anything. I expect crazy-ass fight scenes and stuff like that, but they're not really American-produced things. And then you fast forward maybe 10 years after that, we have the No Retreat, No Surrender 2 that Corey Yen has done. His career obviously speaks for itself now with The Matrix and all that other stuff that he's done. But, this one, it's all Americans. The choreographer's not somebody from another country. He's American. Jeff Pruitt did the fight choreography. So you've got a real American production. And that really wasn't being seen to this point. Not fight scenes like this kind of thing. I would challenge people as this movie, as we go into the 90s with the Mission of Justice and the Martial Outlaws and stuff like that. I think it really sticks out to me to this day, because I think in this era, there was a shift where all these American produced things were coming out. And there was a lot of style in terms of punch a guy and there's a wire work on him where he flips over and stuff, which is a very, foreign cinema, kind of thing they were doing. But that's incorporated in this, in the garage, the one fight scene. In fact, the Russian Circle might have it. I know the one guy does like a flip, and you could tell he's probably on a wire. He's not doing that one. But yeah, I think the thing that separates this is really, American fight choreography, I think, was changing at this point. You can't even compare, fast forward, almost 20 years before this with a movie like the Dragon that was so popular with Bruce Lee and John Saxon, who was a real life black belt as well, that just passed away not too long ago. But even that movie, Martial Outlaws fight scenes blow that away. I mean, it blows away the stuff that's in Enter the Dragon. It's not even competitive, and I like Enter the Dragon. But you can see how things are morphing action-wise and martial art-wise in that era. And still, we had the Seagal. Seagal was not the Seagal of today. Obviously, he was still, doing theatrical releases. Van Damme was doing Hard Target, and those kinds of things were coming out. So you had major theatrical stars doing stuff. And honestly, aside from... I really can't even think of a Van Damme movie besides, the obvious ones like Bloodsport and things like that. But to have continuously choreographed stuff like that Russian Circle scene, I think that's pretty intuitive choreography there.
In your opinion, your personal and your professional opinion, what do you feel was the most dangerous stunt in this movie?
I'd have to go back and really look and see what the other ones were, because you're so focused on martial art choreography in a movie like this, much like you would be in a movie like Perfect Weapon, that you forget the flame fire suit at the end of the movie stunt, or something that's much more dangerous than trying to just get a punch in the face. You know what I mean? So I'd have to go back and see who's doing a fall out a window, who's jumping out a 2-story window through glass and onto a shed or whatever. I would obviously say those are obviously always going to be the more dangerous stunt, where sure, you can get kicked in the head and die, but your chances of that happening over jumping out a 2-story window onto a roof and then rolling to the ground, probably a little more dangerous. But I probably would go through one of the, or you go back several years, and Chuck Norris was famous for this, although he didn't do this stunt. His brother did it, Aaron Norris. The Force. What is it? I think it's in Force Vengeance. I forget. It might be Eye for an Eye. It's where he jumps up and he kicks through the car windshield. Famous Chuck Norris scene there.
There's a lot of quick cuts in this, so it's literally a blink and you'll miss it moment. Obviously, you mentioned we've been talking about the Russian circle. So one of the thugs tries to do, I don't know if he tries to do a jump kick or he wants to do like a flying Superman punch, but our guy Wincott just side kicks him in the gut, and that's when the wire work comes in. That guy obviously gets pulled back. But I felt was the most dangerous stunt in this film, the one that like made me gasp at my chest, is they're in the Russian restaurant and they're fighting the entire wait staff.
We haven't even got to that scene yet.
One of the dudes jumps up on the railing, and I forget if it's Wincott or Hudson at this point, but I've seen it twice now. They sweep his legs and he falls off the banister and lands right on his sternum. I was just like, that's gonna take the wind out of you for like an hour, man. Like I'm legitimately worried for that stunt performer out there. Like, people are falling through tables and getting tossed into the wall and doing the flippy do stunts that they always do, but like right in the sternum. I was just like, anyway.
Yeah, the restaurant fight scene is probably the number 2 fight scene in the movie that I think is amazing. Obviously, the Russian circle with all the kind of trick choreography stuff with the dumbbells and all that kind of stuff make it kind of awesome. But the scene, they're ripping tapestries off the wall and swinging around. Jeff Wincott's spinning, back fisting somebody like 4 consecutive spinning back fists in a row, and just crazy stuff like that. Obviously, we see Gary Hudson do some fight work as well, who's not known for this kind of thing, but he's not too shabby at it. You can tell being doubled, maybe in some things, but certainly not in everything, because you can tell it's him.
They give him a couple of close cuts where they're literally showing his face, and he's got some hands, dude. He's very quick, which is why I was like, if this movie had like $7 to $10 million, this was supposed to be Jeff Speakman's part. Like, he's got that speed for him. Well, let's talk about what this movie is about. We know it's about a couple brothers. And as brothers go, there's competition, there's competitiveness. One's a little taller, one's a little more handsome, one's a little bit better with the girls in the career. And then Gary Hudson's at home taking care of his dad and his wife, and he's a little resentful for it. But
and he shouldn't be, because his wife is I want to say Christina Erickson is the actress's name in this movie.
That is
he doesn't have much to complain about, to be honest. But I mean, you got to take care of drunk dad while the other guy's off being a super agent or whatever. But he doesn't have much to complain about in the wife department there, in my opinion. But yeah, what the movie's about is, we have the 2 brothers. It's established they hate each other. Gary Hudson's character is on the take, so he's into getting drug money and doing all those kinds of things, we've seen that a million times in movies, from Exit Wounds to, you name it, it's in tons of movies. So nothing new there with corrupt, dirty cop taking drug money and working with villains and stuff like that. So at one point he even aligns himself with the victors of the world to try to get money that way, and then it's all kind of you'll wait for that kind of moment where the brothers are going to break off completely. But I felt like they never really do. I mean, sure, one's on one side of the law and one's kind of on the other. But I always felt like this was going to have a Star Wars ending. It's Darth is going to come back to Luke, and I think we exactly get that kind of thing at the end of Martial Outlaw.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump right to the end there, but it's Gary Hudson's character who does ultimately he's the bad brother, but he still sacrifices himself to save his good brother. We'll come back to that later. This movie focuses so much on the action, which is great, and it keeps the run time down to a sparse 86 minutes. Even with the commercials on Tubi, this thing flies by quickly, and I'm grateful that we do more show or tell, or you get the idea. Don't worry about it. But like when we get to Dad's alcoholism, for as much as it's mentioned, I want to see it. He sits next to a bottle. Yeah, yes. At one point, Gary Hudson dismisses him. He's like, "Why don't you just have another drink, Dad?" And he's like, even at that point, he's like, "No, I'm just going to bed." All right. It's only at the end where we're supposed to get this realization that Gary Hudson's a dirty cop now, or they find out, and then we see Dad take a shot, and that was it. And I was just like, no, I kind of want to see him being abusive or talking shit about Vietnam, or
No, he was just drunk.
Yeah, we don't, and I guess ultimately we don't need that.
I think they could have left that angle. They could have left that angle out of it, in my opinion. Don't make him an alcoholic then. Just make him.
It's unnecessary, right?
Right. Yeah, I think so. For what they were doing with his character, he easily could have been somebody that needed 24/7 care at home. Doesn't have to be in a nursing home, but yet has to live with somebody at his house, which obviously the Hudson family was providing there in this film. But I felt like the alcoholism, they kind of it was a cheap thing. But
Jaeckel's talking about like it's for my arthritis, but then once we get to the final confrontation, it's like, it's not about your arthritis. You've been just drinking because you're guilty about your son being a bad guy. Like,
yeah.
So plot is there's some shenanigans afoot with the Russian mob, as there always is around this time in 1993. If it's not them, it's the Yakuza. But we get the Russian mob this time, and DEA agent Kevin White, our boy Jeff Wincott, he meets up with let's see, not Sergey, but Andre. Andre is in charge of something. He just wanted to be a grocer in America, but his cousin forced him into this life of crime, and they make him a government witness, only for Jack to come in and murder him and say, "Hey, Nikolai and Martin Kovovich, I'm your newest partner, and I'm going to give you all this information as soon as I know it." And ultimately, he does. Is he just a dirty cop? Because I feel like we should be seeing more of him being a dirty cop. Again, it's more just know it and don't worry about it, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I think in this film, the story is so focused on it's the Russian drug dealers coming in. That's all that's there. It would have been good, I think, to see him. But again, you're talking about pushing your runtime now. Even because you don't want to just talk about something like that. If you want to show him be a dirty cop, you got to go show him do something else. Whether it's, maybe he shakes down a pimp on the street at the beginning of the movie or something, and then takes his earner, just something, you know what I mean?
Or steal the bracelet. I want to see him steal the bracelet. We went through this whole thing of like watching the old man like punching the code, and there's a safe, but like it's kind of just left to that. I was like, wow, that's really unnecessary 45 seconds, but it does pay off.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing where he's a dirty cop. That's established in the scene that you just mentioned, which I think is a pretty well acted scene by everybody, by the way. But that scene's really cool, but it's so focused on that story that it doesn't get sidetracked, because I'm sure they want to be under that 90-minute mark for a direct-to-video movie. But yeah, I think Dad's alcoholism gets lost and kind of stuff. I feel the dirty copness, the depths of Gary Hudson being a dirty cop in this film are lost because we're so focused on that 86, 87 minutes to get this Russian drug deal thing going on.
Yeah, feels like Sergeant Jack is just trying to be a cop, just being a cowboy and just trying to make an honest living. But then he finds out, oh, my brother's in town working on a case. Here's how I'm going to sabotage that. That's how it came off to me. I could be dead wrong about that. So the two of them are actually working the case regardless of who's corrupt and who's not. And we got a bunch of fight scenes. They're all fun. I think it's a little weird that Wincott gets carjacked twice.
Yeah.
I guess Andre gets carjacked the first time, and then Wincott gets
just kind of happened. Yeah.
That's just an excuse to get us into the next fight, right?
Correct. In a movie like this, who knows what their producer or somebody was on. This might have been produced by Pierre David. I do not have that information on me, but it might have been produced by Pierre David, who also produced Kickboxer with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Len Kabasinski, you get 10 points. Pierre David, produced by.
Yeah, he
There's
also
like
produced
6 or 7 co-producers and associates, but he is the producer.
Yeah. When we do these podcasts, I don't look anything up. I have my computer screen on. I see you talking. I don't look any shit up. So this is all off the top of my head, people. So, but yeah, I thought Pierre David produced this, and a few years before this, maybe 4, he would have produced Kickboxer with Jean-Claude Van Damme there. Another well-produced, fun movie.
Written by Thomas Ritz. He wrote the screenplay, but this movie's by him and 4 other dudes story-wise. But Thomas Ritz, is that a name that means anything to you in this genre?
Not at all.
All right. Well, he put together a very basic but it's a solid story. Everything is there that I need to be there. In fact, everything I keep telling you is like, I wanted more. I want more detail. So good for you, Thomas Ritz.
I remember my point I was trying to make, though, with Pierre David being a producer on this film. Again, I don't know if they have somebody. You had mentioned the carjackings, and it gets us to the next fight scene kind of thing or action moment. I know I do this in my films. Who knows if they did this 30 years ago, but I'm keenly aware of I don't want X number of minutes to go by in my movie without a nude scene, without a fight scene, without some gore scene. Something has to happen every 7 to 8 minutes, especially in an indie movie like what I do, because you never want anybody bored. You always want something going on, something happening, fight scenes, nudity, whatever, something. Who knows? They could be thinking that too on a production like this, which is obviously catered around the star. I've got the 27x41 theatrical poster framed sitting right over there to Martial Outlaw. As you go down into my podcast room there that I normally shoot in, it's surrounded by movie posters and things. King of the Kickboxers is there. Killer Be Killed is there. Martial Outlaw is there. Nemesis with Olivia Gruner is there. I got lots of posters hanging around my podcast area and stuff. But yeah, who knows? Maybe they're thinking, hey, we're at the 5 minute 30 second mark. We gotta have what's gonna happen? We don't have a fight scene written here. Let's just have him get carjacked. Let's have him walk outside and get carjacked. So who knows?
What is your favorite scene in this? Is it just the Russian circle? Because we've talked about that 3 times now. But if it is, it is.
Well, I mean, obviously it's the best because the choreography and the fun things they threw into it. So we don't have to harp on that enough. I do think if you watch a movie like this, if there's one thing you remember from Martial Outlaw, it will be the choreography and the action element of the Russian circle, which you really wouldn't have seen in another film, unless you're me and you've seen Mission of Justice and know that this is a play off of the Gauntlet scene in Mission of Justice, which was made by these very same producers, directors, and star. But I think that even more brutal, because I think getting punched with like dumbbells is pretty brutal. But I think that the Russian restaurant type scene thing has really got some brutal stuff in it, and it almost walks the line of almost getting a little silly, just with like the 10 consecutive back fists to the face, and nobody's really busted open, nobody's unconscious yet, kind of thing. I mean, these guys are just haymakering each other in the face and just keep going.
Yeah, their hands are not swollen or sore whatsoever. Good for them.
No. Right. Well, they have real pillow fists apparently, because they punch that one dude gets punched like 85 times. So I mean,
I think the funniest scene is the scene where Gary Hudson fights Al Leong in the antique shop. That's at the very beginning, and ends up doing more damage in the antique shop than he ended up trying to save. Yeah, the Russian circle, again, we keep saying it's really, really well done. It is definitely the most memorable, like the Russian restaurant, but it's the fight at the end. It's just enough action. It's just enough fantastic choreography. Then there's drama because Nikolai isn't actually dead yet, and he ends up shooting Gary Hudson. I think that's maybe the best, well put together 5 minutes in this film. And then it's got just a solid ending. It's a little ho-hum, but again, like, you feel dad mourning for the loss of his son. You feel the weight that Jeff Wincott has on him, and his dad goes like, "No, you did the right thing, guy. You made him look good. You made him go out with honor." And
right, he went out with honor. Right.
You could have handled this any other way, and you did the right thing. And roll credits. We're good here.
Yeah, we mentioned scenes like the restaurant or Russian Circle, or even the beginning where he destroys out in the shop there, which he probably just rather would have paid the guy the day's earnings than have him break $84,000 worth of stuff in his shop. But
Yes.
I think one thing that gets lost in a movie like this, I really think anybody can enjoy this movie. I think women could enjoy it. I think the demographic male could enjoy it. I think martial art fans could enjoy it. I think your typical action fan can enjoy it. I mean, I think anybody can watch Martial Outlaw. I really do. If you're a fan of Shaw Brothers type stuff, or the Kung Fu cinema from the 70s kind of stuff, you'll like this movie, or you probably will like this movie. I think this really is an all-encompassing action film that male, female, whatever, everybody can enjoy something about Martial Outlaw. But I think something that gets lost in it as well, and it kind of feeds into that I think anybody can really watch it and enjoy it. The acting, I think, is quite good in this for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
The Russian guys all play it well. I mean, it's all nobody's out of their accents. Nobody's out of, what I mean? Everything sounds good. The acting's good. The wimpy grocer cousin or whatever he was there, I think that guy's really good in this. There's a lot of like good acting throughout. And I think the only moment that could have just used that pinch of editing is when Jeff Wincott confronts his dad, who's sitting in his recliner with his bottle, and he's like, "Bullshit, Dad!" And it seemed like bullshit. It seemed like bullshit. Dad became like a 27-syllable couple words there for a second. I was like, "Oh, we might have just cut that part out and have him knock the drink out of his hand," because that line a little shaky there. But other than that, I really think this is one of the strongest martial art films, American-made martial art films in the last 40 years. More than that, because martial art films didn't really exist even before that. So I'd say it's a really, really strong entry overall. Just somebody that wants to watch a more American-produced martial art film.
Just before we go out there, so I ended up seeing this on Tubi. There's also a copy available on YouTube. On someone's YouTube channel. I won't say official YouTube. I want to say they're both the same quality, but I ended up going with Tubi on both viewings. And there's something weird about the audio almost anytime they're outside. Since you're doing this all off of memory, I can't really explain what it is, but I was just like, do you recall anything about like just, wow, this audio sounds off. Sounds like they're in like a tunnel or something.
I don't, but I'll say this for all the stuff, because Tubi I watch more than anything really now, because as their library grows, they just have more stuff that interests me than something like Prime would have done. I thought Amazon Prime was awesome, maybe 6 years ago or so, but now it's like, and things like Tubi, in my opinion, pass it. With movies like Martial Outlaw. The problem with it, though, is you get films like this, which obviously never saw the light of day on Blu-ray and, these types of things, although they could, because this is a 35 millimeter shot film. Tubi has a lot of stuff that, I mean, for lack of, I believe people say a VHS rip is the common term for it, I guess. And I think this feels like a VHS rip that's up on Tubi. And I think with that too, you get a lot of quality loss and stuff like that. I don't think it's the actual film itself. I think that something's weird in that transfer, if you will, or putting it up on services like Tubi.
Yeah, dig it. If you ever get a chance, I would recommend checking out, talking to you specifically, not the audience. The scene where they follow the Russians to the car wash specifically, it's like the audio is just fading in and out, and it's not even to do with the dialogue. It's literally just the background noise. It should be anything but what it is. But anyways, I digress there. This is a fantastic movie.
People won't care about that.
They won't. It's and I rarely notice things like that, but this really stuck out to me. I can't explain why. Is there any other Jeff Wincott or Kurt Anderson films you would like to recommend, Len Kabasinski?
Definitely Mission of Justice. If you see and watch this, you might like Mission of Justice even more than this film. I love Martial Outlaw, but Mission of Justice is right there. And I don't know, I would be really hard pressed to pick between the two, which I really feel is better. Again, I think Mission of Justice has the better story, in my opinion, where Jeff Wincott is a disgraced cop, or he quits the force with all this stuff. I think he assaults, they let go person that's like beating his wife or something like that. And his captain lets him go because they can't hold him there, and he goes and kills his girlfriend. And then Jeff Wincott is there just a second too late and beats the crap out of the guy, and then they want his shield and they put him on suspension and stuff and blah blah blah. So Wincott quits the force in Mission of Justice and joins these peacekeepers, like neighborhood watch group of all these guys that kick ass, led by Brigitte Nielsen, is the leader of this watch group. Matthias Hughes, who you'll recognize as a very muscular blonde man who's usually a bad guy and henchman in tons and tons of movies, probably most famous for I Come in Peace, where he is the lead alien in the movie opposite of Dolph Lundgren there. But Mission of Justice is really good. You'll see parallels in the choreography because it's still Jeff Pruitt, who also did Martial Outlaw here. So if you like that kind of style of thing, you're going to get that there. There's some brutal stick fighting moments and stuff like that in Mission of Justice. But I think the story's better. So yeah, if I had to pick one, I would say Mission of Justice.
There you go. Well, my man, in 2 weeks, March 15th, you and I are going to be discussing Cynthia Rothrock in Tiger Claws. You want to give us a little preview about that?
We're in my wheelhouse with all these kinds of movies here, and I believe Tiger Claws just came out on Blu-ray from some company. I don't know if it was Synapse or whatever it is. One of the companies that really is known to put out. I think it's the same company that just did New York Ninja and stuff like that. So forgive me, I forget which one it is, but we'll talk about it when that time comes. But Tiger Claws is another good one. It's starring Jalal Murray. I think is how you say his name. His brother, Joseph Murray, was in PM Entertainment and did all those early PM Entertainment stuff with like Don the Dragon Wilson and all that stuff. And Jalal goes off on his own, and right off the bat, he's in a film produced by MCA Universal, which is Tiger Claws. We've got a villain in Bolo Yen from Bloodsport, the main, the popular, super huge guy with the huge pecs and stuff. So Bolo Yen is our villain. It's a really cool story in Tiger Claws, and I don't want to get into it now, but I think it's a unique story for this kind of picture. And of course, we get Cynthia Rothrock in it. So Tiger Claws. Again, we're in an era now in these early '90s where we're hitting some good ones.
There you go. What you want to tell people about Pact of Vengeance coming up soon, coming out on the Killer Wolf Films Patreon?
Yeah, Pact of Vengeance, much like lots of my films for years now, at least the last 3 years or so, all my new films go straight to Patreon first. So anybody that belongs to my Patreon, it's only $2. You get to see Pact of Vengeance before anybody else will see it, because it hasn't signed. I'm not even talking to distributors yet about that kind of thing. I'm just going to wait till the film is done. I don't like really playing games like that. Well, we got to see the film before we can sign. Yes, I realize you want to see the film before you sign it. I understand that. So I'm just done talking to people until it's done and I can say, here it is, so. Instead of just sending people trailers and things like that, or little sizzle moment things. And now I'll just wait for the movie to be done, and then I'll sign it with somebody. But usually even that can take 8 months, 10 months, after you're signed to put it out there, kind of thing. So if you're a member of Patreon and really want to see Pact of Vengeance with me, Leo Fong, John Mickle Thor from Rock and Roll Nightmare, and AEW wrestling stars Pretty Peter Avalon and Diamante, then join the Patreon, because you'll be able to see it probably in about 2 months now. So, we're looking at April-ish kind of thing. So we'll see what happens there, but that's the goal. And I think we're on pace to do that. So it's patreon.com/KillerWolfFilms. It really is the best way to support my works.
I cannot wait. But while we're waiting, folks, check out Kush and Kai episodes, backlog. Len just mentioned it earlier. Matthias Humes in I Come in Peace with Dolph Lundgren and Brian Ben. That's a fun episode that we have. One of the early ones that we did back in the day. Otherwise, you can catch me and Mike Fish on the Waffle Box podcast. It's the best part of Wednesdays, where we talk about everything and nothing all at the same time. And then for those not in or out of the know, Microdose coming out every Friday. We try to bring you a guest. Sometimes we play a game. It's the best that we can make of it on a Friday when you should be at home or at work. Otherwise, Len, is there anything else you want to break down about anything?
I do not. Just everybody take care out there. We're still in a pandemic, so be safe. Don't do anything crazy. And I hope you enjoy the episodes. We got more martial art type stuff to come here, which I'm really thrilled about because, again, these are all movies that I really grew up with, kind of thing. All this direct-to-video stuff. A lot of it reminds me, and it is like, I do a Forgotten Movie Den podcast for my Patreon where I mention stuff like Overkill was the first movie I ever did on my Forgotten Movie Den, which is 4 years ago now. Overkill starring Aaron Norris, not Chuck Norris, but Aaron Norris. Those kinds of things. So, you'll find lots of movies like that I'll talk about because I get a lot of questions on Twitter and YouTube or my channel and stuff where people will comment, what are your favorite movies, Len? I get that one a lot, but I can't pick that, but I can tell you all these ones I like Tiger Claws and King of the Kickboxers and TC 2000 and Talons of the Eagle. And I mean, you name it. So, and then they ask, well, what's your favorite, Shaw Brothers? And that one's easy because it's always going to be 5 Element Ninja. But, I get those questions a lot. So, I'm just having a good time with everything, and I hope everybody's enjoying it.
That's what's up. For the director of Pact of Vengeance, Master Len Kabasinski, I've been Kush Hayes. You've been you.
No brakes on gas. This the kick-ass movie podcast. We're here to kick ass. If you with the kung fu, then this your podcast. No brakes on gas. This the kick-ass movie podcast. We're here to kick ass. If you with the kung fu, then this your podcast. No brakes on gas. This the kick-ass movie podcast.
From the BosNet family.
Yeah, this one-on-one stuff hasn't working, fellas. Maybe we should go 2-on-1. You're like, shouldn't we go 3-on-1? No, that'd be too much. We got to go 2-on-1 on this one, guys. Like,